My parents threw me out of the house at 16, so my older sister could live with her boyfriend. But their plan backfired when my grandparents threatened their inheritance. It had always been obvious that my parents never loved me, but it wasn't until last week, on my 16th birthday, that I finally had undeniable proof. Like every year, there was no celebration, no cake. But this time, they surprised me with a gift. Except it wasn't for me. They kicked me out of the house. The reason? My older sister Rachel. She has always been their beloved daughter. While I've been the socially awkward one, never popular, never in a relationship, she was the golden child. But now she's 8 months pregnant. On the morning of my birthday, my parents woke me up and told me to start packing. We had 4 bedrooms, and they wanted one for the baby, one for Rachel, and one for her boyfriend, leaving me with nowhere to go. Their solution? Ship me off to my uncle's house. They promised to cover my expenses until I turned 18, as long as I was no longer under their roof. Rachel wasn't even home during this talk. They made sure she wouldn't see me being thrown out and feel guilty. Like any 16-year-old kicked out on his birthday, I was devastated. I spent the day stuffing my belongings into trash bags, while my parents helped, almost eager to speed up my departure. On the drive to my uncle's house, they laughed and joked as if nothing had happened. At one point, my mom turned to my dad with a huge grin and said, "Now that he's gone, we can finally order Indian food." When we arrived, they didn't even walk me to the door. They stopped at the curb, dropped me off and left. My uncle opened the door, hugged me warmly, and I immediately broke down crying. He comforted me, but as soon as I explained what happened, his smile disappeared, replaced by anger. He stormed into another room and called my dad. That's when I learned my father had lied. He told my uncle I wanted this arrangement and had suggested moving in myself. That explained why my uncle had agreed so easily. After the call, he brought me ice cream and told me he regretted not stepping in sooner. He admitted that as an adult, he should have prioritized my safety and happiness over respecting my parents. But what hurt most was knowing my parents had chosen to give their guest room to Rachel's boyfriend, a 24-year-old man with a job and his own apartment lease, instead of letting me stay. That night, I decided to expose them online and let the internet judge them. I wrote about the favoritism, the insults, and the abandonment, then posted it. An hour later, it had gone viral. Relatives read it. My inbox exploded with messages, and while many offered support, my parents flooded me with angry texts. My father even wrote that he wished I had never been born. For about a week, I ignored them, but then they showed up outside my school, furious. My friends stood around me, blocking them, but my parents insisted I needed to go home immediately. Once they got me alone, the truth came out. They didn't want me back out of love. They needed me to secure their inheritance. My grandparents had found my post, and when they saw how I'd been treated, they threatened to cut my parents off unless they reconciled with me. We're talking about serious money, and my dad couldn't afford to lose it. But instead of even pretending to care about me, they acted like they were doing me a favor by taking me back. That's when I told them I couldn't care less about their inheritance, and walked away. My uncle began working with a lawyer to change my custody arrangement. When I called my grandparents to thank them, I told them honestly, I didn't want to return. Living with my parents had always been suffocating, and I no longer believed things would ever change. They assured me that if I wanted to stay with my uncle, they would make it happen. A few days later, Rachel reached out and asked me to meet at her boyfriend's apartment. She immediately apologized for never defending me, admitting she knew our parents played favorites, but had been too afraid to stand up to them. She was shocked to learn they had kicked me out just to make space for her baby and boyfriend. She hadn't even been told. Reading my post made her realize she couldn't keep ignoring the truth. She moved out within a week. Soon after, my uncle announced that my parents had agreed to give up their parental rights. Of course, it wasn't because of guilt. It was because my grandparents gave them an ultimatum. Either lose the entire inheritance, or give up custody, keep half, and promise never to contact me again without permission. Guess which option they chose? Exactly. And honestly, I'm not surprised. I'm just grateful I dodged a huge bullet. Now I'm living happily with my uncle and rebuilding my relationship with Rachel, while my parents face the consequences of choosing money over their children. Parents